heart disease, obesity, musculoskeletal deterioration, and osteoporosis are just 4 of the symptoms associated with living a sedentary lifestyle. My slide here is still not a complete list, but it also has a few more, like high blood pressure, diabetes, depression, and a weakened immune system. The goal of this speech is to encourage you to be active in your daily lives in order to avoid suffering from these health complications in the future. So we've covered that living a sedentary lifestyle takes a toll on the body. And it takes even more of a toll on the body as you age. Yet living a sedentary lifestyle is only on the rise. This is due to things like work, school, hobbies, and transportation, all requiring less and less movement than ever. However, meeting your weekly recommended exercise is a lot more achievable than you might think. To begin, heart disease killed 702,880 people in 2022 alone. Heart disease has a heavy correlation with living a sedentary lifestyle. Whenever you aren't moving, your heart isn't getting activity. And the heart's a muscle. Just like any other muscle, when it's not being exercised, it gets weakened. The more it weakens, the less effectively it can do its job, until eventually it leads to heart failure. Heart failure is death. Hopefully nobody in this class suffers from that. However, statistically, some of you will suffer from hypertension. Hypertension also comes from being sedentary. When you aren't moving and helping force your blood to circulate, it forces the heart to pick up the slack and pump harder. This causes higher pressure in veins and arteries, which causes them to react by thickening and narrowing. This causes restricted blood flow to vital organs, which can also lead to a plethora of health complications down the line or organ failure. The next highest killer in the US is cancer, at 608,371 deaths in 2022. However, it's suspected that around 30 to 40% of these deaths could have been prevented by living an active lifestyle. There's 7 types of cancer that have already been proven that being active lowers your risk of developing. These are bladder cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, endometrial cancer, esophageal adenocarcinoma, and gastric cardia. There's also 5 more types of cancer that there's a high correlation between activity and a lower rate of developing. These are lung cancer, ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, renal cancer, and colon cancer. This slide here shows a few of the cancers that your risks can be minimized of by exercising. So now that we know some of the risks of being sedentary, we can talk about why it's on the rise. I think the easiest thing to pinpoint would be work. In the US, just looking at office jobs in the transport industry, that makes up 23% of the population. These people are going to spend roughly 40 hours a week sitting, either in a car or at an office. This is going to push them into a sedentary lifestyle, and they're probably going to want to relax when they get home, causing them to be sedentary for even longer. This number of 23% also closely matches the CDC statistic that roughly 25% of Americans are living an inactive lifestyle. The next most obvious cause for living a sedentary life would be screen addiction. I'm sure many people in this class are going to talk about addiction to social media and screens in general. And from the number I found, the average American spends roughly 5 hours and 16 minutes on their phone alone. This is a symptom of a bigger problem, where everybody has access to a quick dopamine rush from their couch. Now that we've talked about some of the issues that arise from living a sedentary life and a couple of the reasons for it, we can move on to how you can avoid this. The most obvious way to avoid this would be to meet your weekly recommended exercise goals. These are more achievable than you might think, at a recommended around 150 minutes of moderate activity or 75 minutes of high intensity activity weekly. So this levels out to roughly 22 minutes of moderate activity a day or 11 minutes of high intensity activity every day. Something I think just about every American can do. However, even if you're meeting these, it's not going to counteract living a sedentary lifestyle. Sitting down all day still takes a toll on your body. It isn't going to be counteracted with 22 minutes of exercise a day. So, my recommendation for that would be try to find active hobbies like hiking or playing sports. And if you work an office job or a job where you're sitting a large part of the day, recommend trying to stretch every 30 minutes or so, and any free break you have, going for a walk. This slide here demonstrates some of the things that count as high activity, average activity, and low activity. So you can do things like jump rope, lift weights, jog, or play a sport for high intensity. For average intensity, riding a bike, stretching, or moving things around. Low intensity isn't one we need to cover as much, but it's things like sitting at a desk or sitting down to read. So to wrap things up, living an inactive lifestyle is dangerous, takes a toll on your body, and inactive lifestyles are only on the rise. However, with just making sure activity is a goal in your daily life, you can counteract these negative effects. Thank you. Oh, reference page.